Samsung Galaxy phones are all capable of taking great shots, but to do that, you need to know some tricks. For example, I took these shots straight out of the camera without any editing, even though they look edited. And today, I will teach you how to take the same photos with your phone. I'm using OneUI 7, which comes pre-installed on the Galaxy S25 Ultra and Galaxy S25. But you can upgrade all recent Galaxy S and A series like the S24 or A55 to this version. These settings are also available on older models. The first important lesson after cleaning your lens is that it is always better to shoot at the native zoom levels. On the Galaxy S Ultra series, that would be 0.6, 1, 3, and 5. On the base S models like the S25 and S24, that would be 0.6, 1, and 3. The reason is that if you use anything else, the phone will do a digital crop, which reduces the quality of your photo. The only exception is if you want to zoom very far into the subject, like 20 times, which causes the phone to apply additional AI algorithms to improve the picture. In low light settings, it is better to use the main sensor, since the sensor is larger and of higher quality. But for portrait shots, I prefer to use the 3x zoom. This zoom resembles the famous 50mm full-frame DSLR equivalent, and we are very used to these facial proportions. Zooming into the subject doesn't just make things larger, it also changes the proportion of the face and objects. All the lenses of Samsung phones have a fixed aperture, and since the sensors are tiny, you don't get a naturally blurred background like with a real camera. What you can do is use portrait mode to achieve an artificial shallow depth of field. What I usually do is to click on this tiny icon on the left side and choose 4 or 5 as the effect strength. Anything higher than that ruins the hair and makes the photo look too artificial. You can also change the blur effect. For example, here I'm using color point and the result is fantastic. It makes the background black and white, which makes Daria stands out more in the picture. Another trick you can use when taking portrait pictures, especially of moving subjects, is to use continuous shutter mode. It does not work in portrait mode, but you can switch to normal photo mode, hold the shutter button and drag it down. This will capture multiple pictures per second, allowing you to choose your favorite later. I use this when taking pictures of pets or kids. If you don't have this option, you can go to the setting and toggle the swipe shutter button to take burst shots. Another new setting is the new grid level. To activate that, you can go to the composition guide and toggle grid lines and levels. And one last thing, I always take photos in 12 megapixel and not 50 or 200. I simply get better results on 12 megapixel and I find subjects to become blurry if I use another pixel count. 12 megapixel is plenty if you don't plan to crop the photo. Now that the setting is correct, you can use the new tool to align your phone properly and avoid tilted angles when taking a photo. Align the yellow bar in the middle with the central white bar. Another important factor, especially in low light settings, is that mobile phones tend to increase the exposure by default. This not only ruins the mood, but also lowers the quality of the photo by selecting a higher ISO and raising the shadows, which introduces noise. Fortunately, there is an easy fix. First, tap on the subject you want to expose correctly. Then, tap the lock icon to lock your exposure. You can also achieve the same results by holding down on the subject. When the lock turns yellow, it means the camera will no longer adjust the exposure automatically. Now, try dragging the exposure 1 or 2 steps down for a better result. You can also use the built-in filters in the camera to make your photos look even more artistic. There is a catch though when using filters, and that's the colors are baked into the photo, and you cannot change it later. What's more important than using the right setting when shooting portrait photos is lighting. That's why I'm following a course on Skillshare, the sponsor of today's video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelancing, and productivity. Skillshare can help you take your career, passion, and hobbies to another level. One thing I learned throughout my photography and videography journey is that these skills should be practiced daily, like just training your body, and you should have a plan for it. In 2025, I made a plan to shoot and learn daily. That's why I started 2 courses, one on portrait photography by Desdemona Dallas, which helps me become a better photographer by teaching posture and lighting, and another by Marcus Brownlee on how to become a better creator, where I've learned a lot of tips and tricks. These courses are well structured and easy to follow. I will put the link to a Skillshare in the description below. The first 500 people to use my link will receive a 1-month free trial on a Skillshare. Get started today. Before showing you tips on making better videos, let me show you the settings I use. There are 2 settings that I find to be very important. For one, make sure that the variable frame rate is turned off. In OneUI 7, it is called Auto FPS and turns off. Otherwise, you may get frame drops, which can look very nasty in low light situations. For advanced video options, I always turn off HDR10 plus videos. For some reasons, I don't like the look when those options are turned on, and it is extremely difficult to work with the footage in post. For frame rate, in normal camera mode on almost all Galaxy phones, you can shoot at a minimum of 40K 30 frames per second, shown as UHD 30. This is the most recommended for social media and YouTube, since 30 frames per second is well supported by most digital platforms. Use 60 frames per second if you plan to create slow motion footage later, Full HD if you want to save a storage space, and 8K if you don't mind using up a lot of storage. Another cool mode on Galaxy phones is Pro Video mode. In this mode, you can manually adjust ISO and shutter speed. Additionally, you can shoot at 120 frames per second for even better slow motion footage. However, I never use 120 frames per second on Samsung phones, because I feel there is some warping in this mode, making the footage look shaky. I would avoid it unless you are using a tripod. There is a mode called Portrait Video, which you can access by clicking on More. This mode works similarly to Portrait Photo, but for video. It blurs the background while keeping the subject in focus. When taking photos or videos with a real DSLR lens, each lens has a unique way of blurring the background. Samsung has tried to mimic this effect. For example, you can use the big circle mode, which makes the background blur appear more circular. You can also use color point mode, which turns the background black and white while keeping the subject in color. The most fun effect is glitch, where the background distorts dynamically. Many creators use this effect in videos they publish as shorts. You can even change the effect while filming without stopping the recording. There is also a new zoom rocker in Pro Video mode that allows you to zoom in and out smoothly, unlike normal video mode, where zooming can introduce color shifts due to the camera switching lenses while zooming. This feature ensures a more seamless transition. One fun mode I use often when vlogging is called dual recording, which lets you use 2 cameras at the same time. I usually select the main lens and the selfie camera, but you can choose any lens combination you prefer. For example, when I'm cycling, I use this mode a lot by attaching the phone to my bike. It allows me to capture myself talking while also recording the scenery as I ride. Another cool feature that I've only found on Samsung phones is auto framing. This is a feature you typically find in expensive vlogging cameras, like the Sony ZV-E1, which costs around $2,000. Simply click on the setting to activate it. In this mode, your subject can move around freely and the camera will keep the subject in frame without losing it. I made another video where I explained Pro Video mode in more detail and how to use it in conjunction with accessories like ND filters. You can watch that next. Thanks for tuning into Tecmo, and I will see you in the next one.